Hey, what's up, friends? A couple weeks ago, I finally mastered curling my hair with a flat iron, and I posted about it and had a whole bunch of people tell me they also need a tutorial. So, learning as I go. So take this with a lot of grace because I'm still learning how to do this, but I feel like I finally learned some tips and tricks to getting it mastered. So one of the biggest things that I have learned is that using minimal product is significant. When your hair is getting pulled through the flat iron, if there's a bunch of texture spray or hairspray, or even if your hair is pretty dirty and has like some dry shampoo texture in it, it makes it a little bit more difficult and you get more creasing or makes it straighter. So a trick that I found to be really helpful is using just a thermal protecting oil. I use Olaplex bonding oil. It's their number 7 and it has heat protection up to 450 degrees, and I just find it gives the hair hydration and a nice slip so that you can kind of glide it right through your flat iron. Another tip that I found to be helpful is that using a flat iron any bigger than 1 inch can prove to make it a little bit more difficult. I don't know if that's that way for everyone, but for me, I needed something that was definitely 1 inch. The flat iron that I have is a Hot Tools. This is one of their most recent models that I really love. It's actually designed for curling the hair. As you can see, it's round on the outside. It also has a pivoting cord so that when you're twisting your wrist, this doesn't get hung up and all tangled up and everything. And then of course, I always recommend using a clip and sectioning your hair. I know a lot of people don't section their hair. For me, it just makes it a lot easier. So I'm gonna start with my bonding oil, just put a couple drops. And then I'm gonna start with sectioning right about at my temples, the way I normally do with curling my hair and everything. Section that. I'm working with 1 day dirty hair. Comb it to make sure that there aren't any knots. That will definitely make it harder for you to run the flat iron through. And I highly recommend, if this is your first time trying to straighten your hair with a curling iron, to take small sections. The bigger section you use, the more difficult it becomes, the more you're gonna get frustrated. So start small, get the hang of it, get the feeling right, and then go in and work on bigger sections. So I'm gonna start with this piece right in front of my ear. Now on my less dominant side, so I'm right-handed, this is my left side, I have found it pretty easy to go, once I clamp, to turn away from my face and just use that motion in my wrist to turn away from my face. I have seen some people and heard from friends that they are able to do it this way a little bit easier, and they found that curling their wrist this way was a little bit easier. You might have to find what works for you the most, but for me, at least with this front section, going from this angle and turning my wrist is easiest. So I start and I go through and I just heat the hair a little bit with the flat iron first, and then I clamp and turn almost 180 degrees and glide down, and then at the end, I leave the bottom 3 inches out of the curling iron. Now, some of my short little pieces around my ears get a little too bouncy, so what I'll do is I'll just go through and lightly run over them with the flat iron to straighten them out a little bit, and then they match the rest of the curl. If you find that it does the same thing on the ends, you can do the same thing and just straighten the ends. You don't have to go through and redo the whole curl. I'm gonna take another small section here, heat it throughout, and then turn. You want to try to make sure that the hair glides through the plates the whole way down. Sometimes it likes to get caught like where the plates are not, and then you're going to end up with a straight piece when you're done. So that one is done. I'm going to keep moving back here and keep throughout. You can see I'm taking bigger sections as I get a little bit more comfortable. Glide it down, and then I will actually just run my finger through and wrap it while it's still hot. It'll help the curl stay a little bit better while the hair is hot, and let it cool in that kind of barrel form. Okay, here's a good example. I totally forgot to run through it and straighten it, or heat it up first. So this piece didn't really curl very much. So I'm gonna try that again. I'm gonna heat it first and then clamp and twist. Much better. Then you can see I got that curl a little bit better. Go through on the other side. Again, starting with smaller pieces. Now, this is my dominant side, so I'm going to still try to go away from my face, but rather than starting with my wrist straight and turning it hooked, I'm gonna start with it hooked and then turn it straight, if that makes sense. See, my wrist is straight right now. I'm gonna start with it hooked and like a, I wanna say like a flexing hook or like a J hook, but my wrist pointed down towards the inside of my elbow. Heat it throughout and then go to straight and wrap it down, leaving that last little bit out. Voila. I can't even tell you guys how much of a victory dance that I did after I successfully did my whole head with a straightener. I used to be able to only do one side and I couldn't get the other side figured out. That one might have been too big of a piece. There we go. And the best advice that I can give with this is just to practice. You're never gonna get something perfect on the first try. The more you do it, so this is the third time that I'm doing this successfully, and I feel like I get better at it every time. And you guys, I've been doing hair for almost 10 years, and I feel like such a noob that I'm just now learning how to do this with a flat iron, but just apparently needed quarantine to give myself a reason to practice. So the next section, I'm just gonna pull this top like crown area up, and I'm gonna do the rest. Make sure you comb all the knots out and then go one side and the other. All right, so with that one, you can kind of see how the bottom of it fell out of the flat iron before I finished. So I'm just gonna pick up that bottom piece that fell out. You can see it only curled like part of it. I'm just gonna retry that small section. You don't have to redo the whole thing. And now that we're getting to the top section here, just find wherever you want to part. And I'm actually going to start on this side now since it's my least heavy side. And with this back section, you just kind of have to figure out which angle works for you. I found that for me, rolling back and kind of transitioning the flat iron as I pulled back was the most helpful. But everyone has different tricks that work for them, so just keep practicing. It's the best piece of advice I got for you. So again, I rolled back away from my face towards the back of the room. Find these straight pieces. There we go. Alright, and once I am mostly done, I'll go through and kind of look to see if there's any pieces that are just a little bit too straight for my taste or a little bit too curly, and fix that. Try to see if I can go back in and do it a little bit better. This technique definitely gives a more relaxed kind of wavy curl rather than a tighter curl. All right, and then the final thing that I found that I like is that with these front pieces right up here, I don't love that really tight curl right near my face, so I will actually go through and just relax right up here at the top so that I don't have those like tight curls next to my cheekbones. In there. And then the fun thing about the flat iron is that if you're lacking like volume up in here, you can actually just grab like the little top layer pieces and add a little bit of curl to them individually so that you can get a little bit more height or depth to the hair. And then I like to finish it off with either a texture spray or a firm hold hairspray. I love Kenra 26, is one of my favorites, smells the best, way better than 25. And this is one that I recently tried, is the Sexy Hair Texture. Don't love the smell of this, but do love the way it makes my hair feel. All right, and then I just like to rough it up a little bit to give that kind of undone, windblown feel. And that's it. Like I said, if you're doing this for the first time, you gotta give yourself a lot of grace. There's a lot of trial and error with using a flat iron to curl your hair. At least for me, there was. Nonetheless, I hope this video is helpful for you. I hope that you're able to try it soon in the near future. And if you do, tag me, let me know how it goes. And if you have any questions, you can just comment and I'll see if I can help you out.